Good afternoon, class. I thought I'd go briefly give you part 2 to the introduction of the course. Part 1 that I sent out, I guess it was yesterday, basically goes over basic function of how to manipulate and find stuff on Blackboard, which, you know, if you're in the English 1101, 1010, or 1102, a lot of the same platforms and programs and files and stuff you can find there on the left hand side. So this is really this video is going to be devoted to 1102, which is literature and composition. And what I'm going to do here momentarily is just basically give you an overview of the course, go through the high notes of the syllabus, talk a little bit about how each week is going to run, and sort of in the video there, I hope not to go too terribly long, but this is sort of really the ins and outs of the course, what to expect, how everybody's going to be graded, what type of assignments we're going to do, that type deal. Chances are, because the semester don't really start for everybody until the 23rd, which is this coming Monday, you're not going to really be able to get on the Blackboard to see all the stuff that I may show you here today. But after the 23rd, all this stuff is going to be popped up. The syllabus is going to be there on the left-hand side. You can download it and you review it basically for the next 4 months. And pretty much everything else, course-related material and that type stuff will be up on Blackboard. So let me go ahead and I just sort of give you a brief introduction again of myself. My name is Patrick Wilson. I will be your instructor for English 1102 for the next 16 and a half, 17 weeks, however you want to look at it that way. I'm based in Camden. That's where my home office is. I live in Brunswick. I've been sort of teaching at Coastal Pine since 2013, though I've been in the education business really since I started college in 1998. I got my master's degree from Georgia Southern in English. I got my undergraduate degree, the bachelor's degree from Armstrong Atlantic State, which is now Georgia Southern, in English and a minor in linguistics. I also have my associate's degree in English from the College of Coastal Georgia before it became a 4-year college. So I've tutored basically kindergarten all the way up through grad school. I've worked at various institutions, Job Corps, a subbed public school. I did adjunct work at this college as well as CCGA. I've been published as it relates to short stories, poems, creative scholarly pieces in various print and website publications. So I think I have a good bit of qualifications. I kind of know what good writing is, good polished, professional, academic writing, that type stuff. So I look forward to working with everybody in this course this coming semester. And please, you know, if you have any issues or any concerns, any help, or need any help, please reach out. The email is probably going to be the quickest way, even though when I pull up the syllabus, there is a phone number. You can call the office, leave a message. But usually, because we're having to work Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, there's going to be, you know, multiple times throughout the day, because I'm going to be teaching 5 other classes besides this one, 3 in person if they all make, and 3 online. Chances are I will be answering and reading emails throughout those throughout the time that I'm here at work at the office. Now, as it relates to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, considering that that's usually our off period, I do check email over the weekend. I won't live behind the screen for 10 hours for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because I got 2 kids and a wife. So I want to have some relaxation time before I have to start back. But if it's something that is, really quick and easy to answer, generally you get a reply within a couple hours. If it's something that takes a little bit longer during the week, it may be, a day, 24 hours of that nature. If it's over the weekend or a holiday, it could be 48 hours, about 2 days or so. But generally, anybody that, has had me as a instructor, they realize that I'm pretty good about keeping up with grades each week, and I'm pretty good about responding to email. So if I don't know the answer to it, I'll let you know, and we can sort of hunt for the answer together. So I welcome you to English 1102, and I hope you have a pleasant, not as stressful semester, I hope. Each semester has its own stress, and that's really, that works 2 ways. It works, my stress and your stress, that type deal. But I'm sure we will work through it and get everybody getting the best possible grade to pass this class when we finalize the class the second week of December. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the syllabus, and we're going to talk through that, work through that a little bit. Again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I know that you know how to read. You're taking this class, you're here, you know how to read. So I will, again, you have the whole entire semester to go back and read the syllabus as many times as you need. I'm just going to hit the high notes and then maybe move it on to a little bit with the lessons and the weekly folders, and probably sort of end it there. And next week sometime, maybe the Monday or Tuesday, do another video that talks a little bit more in depth with week 1 assignments. So bear with me again while I share this. Okay, so as you can tell, this is your course syllabus, and again, it's on your Blackboard page. This is a 45 total credit hour course. Again, it's fall 2021. It's literature and composition 1102, and it's 3 semester credit hours. So as you can tell, my office number is 912-522-4508. Office hours and tutor hours, I'm going to try to stick to these. They could vary. Basically, what I've been telling my other online courses is that I'm going to try to do at least 2 hours each week of in-person tutoring for those other 3 classes that I have in person. That doesn't mean that if you live close to Camden or, in Brunswick, and you want to make the drive or whatever, and you just feel better having a one-on-one in-person session, then let me know that you want to have a in-person session. We can set up something around my schedule and, around your schedule that works best for you. I will warn you, because of the different variants of Corona, we're still got COVID sort of protocol and precautions coming on. So if you do show up in person, you're going to have to maintain a 3 or 6 feet distance, and you're going to have to, probably wear the mask, whether you've been vaccinated or not. So I would just throw that out there. If it's something that, hey, I would rather do something online, well, that was what I was going to get to next, because I'm also going to offer 2 hours a week tutoring time virtually. So we can either do it through Blackboard Collaborate or through Microsoft Teams, which I'll be talking a little bit more about that maybe next week. But there's going to be ways that you can get the help if you want the help. We also have the 24-hour live tutorial program, Smart Thinking. It may be the situation, if this is your first time at Coastal Pines, it may take about a week to get everybody's information into the Smart Thinking system. If you were here last semester, if you took 1101 with us at some point, chances are your information is already still in Smart Thinking. So there's a possibility you could start using it by the end of this week if you really wanted to. And really, where it deals with this particular class, it will help out when it comes to, rough drafts of essays and that type of stuff, because that particular tutor on smart thinking is just another set of eyes that could look at your work in conjunction with my eyes, right? So you want to, I'm really a proponent about going through the writing process, the process that you should have learned when you took 1101 last. Multiple sets of eyes that look at your work during the writing process. Generally, the better the grade, not only on that assignment, but ultimately in the class. So I will say this, I mean, most students of mine that have used smart thinking and sent me drafts throughout a 4-month period usually are the ones that get the higher grade in the class and the higher grade on most of the assignments. Again, I recommend that email will probably be the quickest. Just make sure that it's capital P, capital W, and then wilson@coastalpines.edu. Keep in mind that Blackboard and Coastal Pines student email are two different things. Each one of y'all that has enrolled in this class has their own personal Coastal Pines student email address. So when I send out messages through Blackboard, those messages are going to go to that email address. You're not going to be able to check messages in Blackboard. You're going to have to go through your student email. So make sure that you're using that. The same thing is when you send emails out, if you're using a Hotmail account, a Gmail, or some other email account that's not connected to the college, chances are I probably will never get that message because of the firewalls and a lot of the security measures that this college has taken place to block out some of the bad people trying to fish and do all that stuff. So it probably won't recognize your email address, and it will kick it back or send it back, or you may think it went and I never get it. So just keep that in mind. The course description, as you can see, there's a big paragraph here. Again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read word for word. So what do we do in a literature and composition class? Well, that's what you get, right? Really, this is the sophomore level, the next step up from 1101. So take what you learned or should have learned from 1101, basically how to write at an academic and scholarly level using proper grammar, using the proper MLA format. And we're going to apply all that to now the literature aspect of an English course, which would be short fiction, poetry, and drama. So the way this particular class is going to be set up is for 35 days or for 5 weeks, we're going to look at 3 different genres of literature. We start off with short fiction or short stories. That will be basically weeks 1 through week 5. Then we pick up with poetry, which would be week 6 through about week 10 or so. And then our last 5 weeks of the semester, we deal with drama. So again, with everything else in mind, proper grammar, spelling, using the proper format, we're going to invoke a little bit more on the critical and analytical reading and thinking skills, as well as research writing. So there will be, like you should have written in 1101, we will have a research paper project, which will deal really with the genre of drama. And we'll talk a little bit more about that after probably week 8 or 9, when we get closer to the end of poetry and past the midterm. There's some special course procedures as it relates to COVID. Of course, since we're strictly online, this probably will not have so much of a bearing on you unless you're coming in for in-person tutoring or if you do have in-person classes. So really for this class, you needed to have at least a C or better with English 1101, which most of you must have. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be in here. And these are some of the learning objectives or outcomes. Again, we're not going to go through all of them. You can read them. I will suggest that you click on and read the acceptable internet and computer policy, especially if you're using Wi-Fi from the college. Basically, there's, don't leave personal information out that somebody can come and snap the picture and take your, account numbers. for your bank or whatever the case may be. Don't be looking at stuff that would be embarrassing had your mom or dad looked over your shoulder or your boss. So just read through that. It's about 2 pages. We're grown adults. I think most of y'all know how to use a computer and the internet when it comes to professional and academic settings. There are hefty fines and jail time if you do decide not to do that and get caught. So every time that you're logged in with your email account and your student ID number, they can find what you're doing and where you're at. So it'd just be sort of foolish to go off that beaten path here. Course materials, as I said in the first video, part 1, we are using a virtual textbook, an OER, basically, which is an open resource textbook. That means it's free. You can access it going through the links here, or there's a link actually on the left-hand side of your Blackboard course page. You click on it, and it would automatically take you to the book. So as it relates to actually buying a textbook, you don't need to buy one. Whatever is not in your textbook that I think that you would need, I will put hyperlinks up in your weekly folders. So you're not really having to buy anything except probably for the basic stuff like folders. I would recommend that each week that you download and print out or save the stuff that you're going to need for each week, just in case the folder shuts on you at the end. And we'll talk a little bit about how the weekly folders are going to be delivered each week. That way you can have something, close by. I would probably invest in, obviously, paper and pencil, or pens, so you can take your own notes. Have a really decent computer that's up to date with the latest Microsoft Word. That's where you're going to be typing most of your essays and stuff. Have a flash or a thumb drive so you can save your work. Nothing is more heartbreaking and frustrating that you're working on a 5 or 6 page paper and lightning knocks out your power, but you never saved it on anything. And now when you turn your computer back on, all that hard work is done, and the paper's due still in 4 or 5 hours. So make sure that you save your work often. I would suggest that you send your work, email your work multiple times to multiple email addresses, just so that in case that does happen, at least you have some of it still intact and you can kind of pick up from where you left off possibly. As it relates to dictionary and thesaurus and MLA handbook, I will give you all that information as it relates to the handbook. We went from the 8th edition to the 9th edition, so that stuff I'll be rolling out a little bit as it gets closer to writing papers. Dictionary and thesaurus, you don't necessarily need to have those because you can go online and find free ones if need be. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. As you can tell, a lot of what we're going to be doing is online. So a lot of this classroom procedures and stuff, just think about regular professional classroom etiquette online. Just be professional, be adult about it. We can agree to disagree without having to be mean or rude or hurtful. There's ways that we can talk and still be respectful, even if you don't agree with an idea. Because again, we're considered adults at the sophomore level here. There shouldn't be any issues with behavior, I hope, at this stage. If you have a disability, if you need, Section 504 to ADA, you need to get that information, the doctor's notes and all that information to our counseling and special service director, Kathy Montgomery. Her number is here and her email address. I can't honor or accommodate anything until I receive verification from her part. So if you come up and say, well, I had extra, last semester I had extra time on a test or a quiz or whatever, that's fine and good. But until I get official documentation from her, I can't honor that. So just keep that in mind. And you're going to need to get the official document. You can't just go up and say, hey, I need extra time on the test. She's going to say, okay, well, where's your paperwork? Or where's this? Or where's that? And you're going to have to be able to provide that, the updated stuff. Grading scale, basically, I grade on a 10-point increment, as you can tell here. I do round up if it's 0.5 or higher. I round down if it's 0.4 or lower. So basically 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, and then anything below 59 is an F. Generally, most programs of study want you to make a C or higher to get credit for this class. So if we get closer to midterm, which would be about week 8 for us, and you got a D or lower, we need to talk to see how we can make that either C or higher, or maybe we need to talk about, and you more so, do a little bit of soul searching to see, hey, within the next 8 weeks, am I going to be able to pass this class? And then if you don't really think you can, maybe you need to withdraw during the withdrawal period, because you don't want to do it after a certain date, because it's going to impact your financial aid and your Pell Grant if you're getting money. The way things are going to be graded as it relates to weights. As you can tell here, we have a fiction assessment, we have a poetry assessment, a drama assessment, a research paper, a final exam, and then sort of the weekly multi that I'll talk about. So you're going to have a short fiction essay and a short fiction exam. And if you look here at the footnote, the exam's worth 11, the essay's worth 12. That's where I get the 23% in that particular section. Poetry is going to be the same way. You're going to have a poetry exam and a poetry essay. The exam of poetry is 13%. The essay is 14. That's where I get 27%. The drama, you got the exam at 7% and the essay at 8%. And the essay in this case for the drama part is going to be your final exam. We'll talk a little bit more about that because it's going to be using ProctorU. Some of y'all have had online courses in the past, probably know what ProctorU is about. Probably hate it, but we're still using that. And then of course your big chunk of your grade is going to come from that research paper. That's 25%. And anything that we do weekly, rough drafts, quizzes, discussion boards, literary workshops, is the other 10%, and that's where you get 100%. So there's not going to be much time for extra credit. Usually at this level, I don't offer or entertain extra credit just because we don't have a lot of time to do that. So I would recommend that you do really well. You have enough time to study. You have enough time to get help as it relates to writing these papers and stuff, that you do well the first time around. Because again, I don't have a makeup or a do-over policy. Assignments are due when they're due, unless I tell you otherwise. And if you don't do too well on them, then you need to change something in your studying habits to do better on the next ones. So that's how it's going to go. And usually every Sunday, and we'll look at the abridged assignment checklist. Every Sunday, there's going to be some kind of assignment due by 11:59. So those types of assignments, one, should help your grade overall if you do really well on them. Two, will help you sort of study and prepare for the exams and help you with ideas with papers. And three, it will let me know that you're engaged with the activities and reading assignments throughout the week, and that you're still engaged in the class. So sort of a word on zeros. Each zero that you make, especially for this class, will drop you about 20 points. That's 2 letter grades. So if you make 3 zeros, you're basically out of 40. That's an F. Depending on when you make those 3 zeros, and let's hope that you never do, because that's really the worst case scenario, you're going to have to at least get 15 100s just to pull that 40 up to at least a 70. Chances are we don't have that many assignments in this class. So like I was saying, if you get close to week 8 and you're at a 50 or lower, you probably want to make the decision of, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this up in the next 8 weeks, because the next 8 weeks deal with the drama section, the research paper, and the ProctorU final. And if you got financial aid coming in, you want to save that for the spring, I would recommend that you drop the class, do it the proper way, and come back and take it when you're a little bit more focused. I'm hoping that nobody has to do that, but with things going on with COVID and everything else, um, you may, and there's no shame in it. But I hope most folks are taking this class in the sense that, hey, I'm real serious about it. I want to do well the first time because I want to graduate on time, or if I want to use the credit to transfer to somewhere else. So you're not having any issues with that. Plagiarism, usually I see that with the research paper, but since we're dealing with a lot of literature-based stuff, um, everybody knows what cheating and plagiarism is. You've heard about it in 1101. You heard about it in other English courses prior to coming to college. If you cheat or you plagiarize, the first offense is always going to be a 0 on the assignment, no questions asked. Usually I have 1 or 2 in each class each semester that thinks that I'm not going to catch them, and when I do, they're shocked that they got the 0. But they usually smarten up after that first 0 because, again, their A has now became a C, their B has now became a D, their C is now failing. So they usually learn really fast not to cheat, not to plagiarize. If they're foolish to do it again, which I usually don't have this problem, but if they are, the second offense is you get a 0, you fail the class. You're basically done. Right? No matter what your grade is, you got an F because you got caught twice. You didn't learn from the first mistake. So the second one you are because you're done. And then it becomes a little bit more dicey because besides getting the F or the 0 in the class, you have to go before the board here at the college, and they determine whether they're going to suspend you for a couple semesters or just kick you out of this college for good. This stuff stays on your transcript. So even if you're going to transfer to Georgia Southern, or transfer to a private college out in Texas, or transfer overseas, it's going to be connected with any type of college transcripts that you have. There's really no way to get around it. My suggestion is, that you're going to, before you started thinking about cheating or plagiarizing something, that you needed help. Go ahead and, swallow the pride and say, hey, I need help. I'm not just, I'm not the only one paying for this course. I want to do well the first time. I want to learn how to do it the first time. So maybe you could teach others, like your own kids or something. But you're going to have to reach out. I don't read minds. I never claim to. If you're not emailing or calling or asking for help, I'm assuming you know what you're doing. So just don't get boxed into that corner where you think that you can go online and buy a paper or borrow somebody's paper that took this class maybe 10 years ago. We're going to find out because we have plagiarism programs, safe to sign and turn in, built into every Dropbox. So if it's out there and you got it, we can find it too. So moving on, we have the web-based tutoring that we talked about. I talked a little bit about the in-person and the virtual. I'll give you more information when that comes up. You can read the guarantee and the statement of non-discrimination and compliance. I'm not going to go through all of that. What you're probably really going to want to pay close attention to as it gets closer to, I would say, by Thanksgiving, is this ProctorU stuff. If you took an online course last semester or really within the last year or two, you probably already created a ProctorU account. You know how that works. If this is your first time dealing with ProctorU, I will send out additional information as it gets closer. But each online course that you take will have at least one Proctor event, whether it's a math class, could be a midterm or final, whether it's a psychology class, whether it's my class. If you're taking an online class, you're going to have to do ProctorU stuff. At least one particular event per class each semester. So just keep that in mind. And really what you need for that, besides a username and a password that you set up, you need a working computer. You need to have stable internet connections. You need to have a working web mic and webcam to be able to do really well on that Proctor event. Campus security numbers, being that you're an online class, you probably won't necessarily need these as much unless you're traveling to a face-to-face class. Anything on the syllabus as it relates to the schedule is subject to change, meaning I have the right to change it. I generally try not to change it unless it benefits all involved, meaning I may push back a due date or something of that nature. I usually Don't try to add more stuff because there's enough stuff here, and plus I got 5 other classes that I have to teach and grade and stuff like that. So I usually don't take stuff away, but I also don't add a whole lot of stuff on, because within these next 16 weeks, you have enough stuff to do week to week. We talked a little bit about the laptop, the smartphone, the late work. A lot of this stuff you can kind of read, and like I said, you have this. It's going to be, the syllabus is going to be up the entire semester. This is sort of our outline of the course: week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way through. You could say week 17. It's basically like 16 and a half, because we only have really 2 days to do the final. But this is sort of what we will be doing each week. Probably the easiest thing as it relates to due dates is, if you look here, this is where you're going to find your syllabus, the assignment checklist. This is the one I usually use because it's the shorter and easier version. This is your textbook. But due dates, for the most part, all the way up until probably when we get into drama, you're going to have something due every Sunday by 11:59. So like with week 1, you have that first fiction quiz that deals with the 2 readings that we're going to do, study and examine that week. And that's going to be due on the 29th. Then you have a discussion post and a literary workshop. So if you look, it repeats in a lot of ways. You have a quiz, discussion post, literary workshop, exam, essay, that all deals with fiction. And then it's, starts to repeat with poetry quiz, discussion post, literary workshop, exam, and essay. That's poetry. And then drama. So the only thing that's it looks like the only thing that's going to be due on a different date than Sunday is going to be this drama exam, and that's going to be on Monday. And really, that's just because we're only going to have like a week and a half when we get back from Thanksgiving to do that. Now, a lot of these things are going to be up way in advance, so you don't necessarily have to wait to the day of to submit. If you want to go ahead and sort of submit earlier to get a grade on them earlier and then work on something else, then knock yourself out. Again, anything is better than a 0. So I'd rather you turn something in earlier and get a 60 on than not turn anything in at all and get a 0. There's still improvement, meaning you can improve on the 60. It's really hard to improve on the 0, especially if you start collecting a lot of them. So let's talk a little bit about the lesson page. Now, on your end, probably, and as it says here, for you, for the student, the class really is not going to be available until the 23rd. So whatever you see here now, and you say, well, I logged on my account, I don't see this. Well, look at it after midnight on Sunday, and you should be able to see what I'm starting to see. Now, some of this stuff is going to be grayed out because weekly folders, right? I give you sort of what we're going to accomplish for this week. You click on here. Again, I kind of tell you what you need to read. I give you page numbers if it's in that actual OER textbook. If it's not in the textbook, like the 2 readings, short fiction, I give you a web link. You click on it. It takes you there. You read it, download it, whatever you need to do. Take notes on it. Obviously, I give you some lecture notes that sort of go along with reading. What I would suggest that you do is probably read through the work first and then come back and look at some of these notes. Otherwise, if you want to look at the notes and then do the reading and then come back and look at the notes, you can kind of do it that way. What I strongly suggest is that you just don't look at the notes and not focus any on the reading, because the readings each week are going to have a basis on whatever assignment we're doing that week, and collectively the exams and the essays that are coming up. So if you're not keeping up with the reading, it's definitely going to tell probably every Sunday. Your grade's not going to be great, and it's definitely going to be a telling sign when we get to the 5th week of each week, when we have big things due and you're not doing well on the essays or the exams. Same thing here. You click on the quiz, you go through it. Most of these quizzes are going to be 30 minutes in length, meaning they're not really involved per se. They kind of tell me, hey, did you read the 2 things? Did you pay attention to them? Did you take your own notes? That type deal. A lot of folks say, well, I can easily go to Quizlet or Spark Notes or Cliff Notes. That's fine. You can, but chances are you're not going to find some of the questions and stuff that I ask, because it really is sort of, it points to, did you really read or not? And just skimming it or just going to Cliff Notes and reading the summary is not going to be too helpful when it comes to you writing that paper coming up or you studying for that exam. Now, Cliff Notes, Spark Notes, and all that other stuff, yes, they do have some help. Meaning, if you read the work, you read my notes, you still don't understand it, then obviously go to YouTube or go to Cliff Notes or something to get some help. But just to blow off the reading, just to read the summaries, Wikipedia stuff, is not going to be helpful when it comes to the weekly Sunday assignments. So I would keep that in mind, because a lot of, especially dual enrollment students, think they can just get away by just, going on YouTube and listening to a lecture from somebody else, or reading the Cliff Notes, or, going to Quizlet or something. And, I guess it all depends. Do you like to have the 60 and 70 instead of the 80 and the 90? If that's your case, and knock yourself out and don't go through the work smarter, not harder type deal, especially if you want to maintain a really good grade point average. As it relates to these folders, except probably for the first week and maybe another week, most things, most folders are going to be Sunday to Sunday, meaning you're going to have a 7-day period to read, to download, to bookmark, to save, to do the quiz for that particular week. Of course, when you get know that a exam is coming up, or know that you have a essay that you're having to write coming up, you're going to have a little bit longer to do some of those major assignments. But really, with these weekly Sunday assignments, you have 7 days. And that's going to be up to you. I usually tell people to pace themselves. I definitely, I wouldn't wait until Saturday or Sunday to read a lot of this stuff and try to do everything. I would take maybe a little bit each day and do something. That way, when it gets to the weekend, you're not going to be so crammed up, especially if you're taking other classes. If you're a high school student, you're not going to have to, worry about doing that work on top of this work. If you work outside or have kids, like most of us may do, you can enjoy the family time. Again, you're an adult, it's up to you, but I strongly suggest I wouldn't wait till the last minute to do the readings and to do the assignments, because usually unless you just work really well under a lot of stress, it's not going to work out too well as the semester moves on. Every Thursday, the next week is going to pop up. So it's going to give you about an additional 3 or 4 days to, work ahead if you want to. Every Sunday at 11:59, that week's folder that you're on, like week 1, when it gets to the 29th of August, which is Sunday, 11:59, all of this stuff is going to close down. Meaning, if you didn't submit your quiz, you got a 0, because we're not doing late work. It disappears. If you didn't get any of this information downloaded or saved that you may need because you're going to be having to study for that first exam or write that first paper, then you're sort of SOL when it comes to that. You're going to have to go back to the syllabus and look and see what kind of work that we did, so you can copy and paste and look for it elsewhere. So I wouldn't wait until the very end to start, saving some of this stuff. So when we get to Thursday of next week, the 26th, week 2 will open up, and week 2 will stay open until September 5th. And then when we get to week 2 on the 9th, week 3 will start opening up. So you're going to have a little bit of an overlap there of the previous week with the next week, that type deal. So if you want to get ahead, I would strongly suggest that you do, especially if you got other online courses or a lot of other things happening in your life. And that's basically how the weeks are going to roll. Next week, I'll probably get a little bit more involved with the stuff for week 1. In the past, I've done lecture videos. In a lot of ways, that's why I provided the notes, because the lecture videos work out in a couple different ways. If this was in a in-person class, obviously the lectures would work really well, because there would be more than just me in class. In the past, I've tried these live lectures. In this particular class, I think there's nearly 25 of y'all, and I would send out a Teams invite, and 3 people would show up, and of the 3, only another person would talk. The other 2 would just sort of sit there and listen. So that's not really a good discussion going on. Or I would send out invites, and 10 people say, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. And when it came time to do the lecture, I'm the only one there talking. So I'm basically talking to myself then. So what I'm thinking about doing is just opening up some like office hours during the week, that anybody in the class who wants to show up and talk a little bit about the literature, or if you're having an issue with a certain part of a poem or whatever the case may be, instead of just lecturing so much on it, we can talk through it together. And that's going to be open to anybody that wants to join. Now, if there's a lot of people that show up, I will probably record the session and throw it up on that week in your Blackboard page. If it's not that many people, I'm not going to record it, right? I'll probably, I keep the Microsoft Teams or the Blackboard Collaborate open for a particular period of time. But when it gets, 30 or 40 minutes and I don't think anybody's going to show up, I'm probably just going to end the session. Because obviously I can use my time in another class more effective than just on a, noiseless, airless, participating with other people because there's nobody else online. But we will see how that goes. If we get through, the next week or so, and most folks say, hey, I think I benefit from a live lecture. And if I have more folks that could show up, meaning if there's 25 in the class, a good number there would be probably between 12 and 15. I don't want to be the only one talking because everybody else, they have their own brains. We all have our unique ideas about things. I want to hear from you more so than you hear from me for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, because it does get sort of boring when I'm the only one talking and nobody else is chiming in. Because that's really what the key point of discussion is participation, not only just from me, but there is sort of that underlining feel that you did read the work, that you took it seriously, and now that you want to discuss it with somebody, because there's nothing more frustrating and more painful when you have 25 students, and let's just say all 25 of y'all did show up, whether it's in person or online, and of the 25, besides me, 3 people read the work. Well, that's only going to be a discussion among 4 people. The other 21 probably should have never even showed up because you don't even know what we're talking about. So just be wary about that, because usually when I do live lectures, I want to have that interaction. I want to hear more from everybody and not just me. All right, I think what I'm going to do there is end this. And like I said, I will be in touch next week. Please email me if you have any other concerns or issues before Monday. Please, I hope you had a chance to start looking at part 1 and part 2 of these before we really start cranking up. That might be able to answer a lot of your initial questions early on. Otherwise, have a good week, whatever's left of it, and have a very good first week. And I hope to hear from some of you and basically work with y'all throughout the next 4 months. Have a good one, and I will talk to you soon.